Hi guys, I'm Zach from NerdWorks Media, and as you can see behind me, in today's video we are officially starting the Turbo Kipple. Now, I'm actually in what will be for you guys the second video, but I'm going to do the intro and the outro for the first part now. Basically, what we did on the first day is we took off the stock exhaust and we put the turbo manifold and the turbo on so that we could plan the intercooler piping and see how much we needed and whereabouts it will go, and just making sure everything fits. And we also put the, what's it called, Callum, a 60 minus 2 crank thing. There we go. We test fitted that as well. So just basically a bunch of test fitting. That's how these things go. So footage of that now. Anyway, in a second I'll get Callum to just talk us through one or two small things on like why we're going with the boost controller that I've got, of which I have shown in the proper first video of the turbo kit, where I was talking about all the different parts. And yeah. So Mr. Callum, would you mind mansplaining what we're doing here? So wait, let me pop over to the side. So, there's actually a little bit more done. As you guys can see, that my intercooler is actually on, but I'll address that in episode 2. For right now, I basically just wanted to talk about what we were doing in the first episode. So, as you can see here, we've got my manifold on and my turbo. Mr. Callum, will you explain what is the benefits of running with that kind of manifold versus a log style that you have like on yours?
So these tubular manifolds, they flow a lot better than the log manifolds. Log manifolds are popular because they're easy to make, they're cheap, so it's an option that fits for most people's budgets and builds, and they're a lot more compact, but we've got the space here, and you've got a guy that did nice fabrication work. So full tubular manifold flows the gases a lot better, so yeah, better spooler, better response, and less restriction.
Cool. And then as we can also see here, I have a Grady, oh, I don't know if that's going to focus, and I have no idea, but anyway, we can see I have a Grady boost controller. Do you mind explaining the Grady boost controller? Because I don't even really know about that and so on.
So boost control can be done in a bunch of ways. We're doing it externally from the ECU with this setup. And one of my personal favorites is the Grady ProFlex. We've got the ProFlex 2 here. It just has a bunch of safety features and a whole lot of functionality that's really nice to have. Multiple boost maps, safety features to protect from overboosting. You can set your gains and how linear your boost comes in, so you can tune out a little bit of lag or wheel spin or anything like that, so you can get a nice flat torque curve, and the boost doesn't come in too aggressively, which is nice if you track the car. And yeah, it's just very reliable.
Cool. And then also about the ECU, I know we actually haven't got the ECU yet all in, but that was a question that I was asked a lot about my ECU. Basically, just do a very brief What is my ECU? What can it do? What's its potential?
So we're going to go with PowerMod's version 1 on this. They are a really nice, reliable ECU. It's more of a budget-friendly option, unless those of us who have the budget to go health tech or something like that. But with our exchange rate, it costs half of what we paid for our cars. So,
yeah, not worth it.
yeah, exactly. So I've got a good relationship with PowerMod's guys. I've used them in a lot of clients' cars, a lot of my own cars. I've got good results with them. Very reliable, dependable, no issues. So we're going to go with that. It has multiple maps if you want to use those features, launch control, things like that if you want. Yeah, a lot of extra functions, general purpose outputs and things like that if you want to run some of the other cars, variable valve timing or any other things you want to run. You can run autometh off it, you can run boost control off it if you want to. And it's a nice, affordable, reliable option.
And then the last question that I wanted to ask, because I was actually getting confused between these two, as we can see here, I have a port for my, which one is it again?
So that'll be wastegate.
Wastegate. Mm-hmm. And then there's a blow-off valve, which is on the cold side.
Yes.
Do you mind explaining the differences between those
Sure.
and what we'll be running and doing?
So wastegate is what you use to control the boost. So this pipe that is on our manifold we won't actually be using on the setup. That's for an external wastegate. This turbo is running an internal wastegate, which a lot of the smaller turbos run. External is great if you're running big turbos or big boost, which is not our current goal on this setup. So the internal works nicely on this. And what that does is basically allows you to bypass some of the exhaust gases past the turbo so it doesn't spool up and make more boost than you want. The dump valve is on the cold side. We've got a G-Ready dump valve, a Blitz, I think it is. That'll go on the cold side there, and that's just basically when you let off the throttle, it just dumps all the boost pressure that's in your cold side, so you don't get a massive spike in the cold side, which then sends a pressure wave back into the turbo impeller and slows the turbo down. So it allows the turbo to keep spooling by dumping air that's got nowhere to go.
Okay, so this is the 60 minus 2 thing that I was talking about earlier in the episode.
Yes. So say again.
No, I'm good. Okay. I'm already recording.
Okay, so one of the changes we're going to make on these motors, which I think is quite necessary, is the crank trigger. We're going for a 60 minus 2 wheel that we are going to mount directly to the crank pulley. This is a long nose crank, so it's safe to do. It will be balanced. Wouldn't do this exact setup on a short nose crank, but we are safe. The standard trigger for TDC and RPM is a very archaic cam angle sensor on these motors, and they just don't have a high enough resolution for what we want out of this motor. So 60 minus 2, very popular, very reliable. Go with a good quality Hall effect sensor, and you'll have no problems. Cool. So another question we often get is why we use this particular turbo. This is a T25 hybrid. It is a Garrett turbo. It's actually an OEM 300ZX twin turbo.
One of these boys.
So if you do the maths, one of these 1.6 motors flows very similar CFM to half a 300ZX motor under similar conditions. So one of the turbos works very well for the motor. I've been running the exact turbo in my car for about 4 years. Fantastic response, decent horsepower figures, makes nice power, decent torque curve. There are guys who go bigger turbos, but you run a lot of lag and then a lot of wheel spin, so it's alright if you want to build a straight line car, but for a track car, gymkhana car, fun street car, I prefer the responsiveness of this 25 hybrid.
Agreed.
Parts are available if you ever need to repair or recon, and they are customizable if you want to go bigger internals or change housings and stuff to get a little more flow or a little more power at higher or lower RPMs. So it's a nice setup for this motor.
Cool. And that's pretty much all I wanted to ask. Okay, there we go. And a very big thank you to Mr. Callum for explaining that, because I'm also still learning. More explanations on the further pieces later in the series, obviously, as we go on. So the intercooler and other stuff will be in the next episode. Fuel pressure regulator as well, I believe. And yeah, so that is actually it for today's episode, guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and consider subscribing and commenting and such. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, cheers.